G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Declan, Kluver and Blake Thompson from XRecruiter based in Brisbane, Australia. Thanks for your time today, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, Troy.
Let's start with how we know each other. So Logan on your team reached out on our website, thought you might be a great guest to come on the cast.
Thank you. Soon find out if we were.
Yeah.
No pressure. Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah. So we've started a business called XRecruiter. XRecruiter is a platform and a community for independent recruiters to start their own business, scale and manage their own business. So basically what we do is we help people start, launch and scale their own recruitment agency.
Right. And it must be very much in demand at the moment, recruitment, given the labour shortage. Have you guys found a demand for XRecruiter?
Big time. Yeah. So to explain the business model, a lot of recruiters get to a point where they're finding all their own clients, all their own candidates. The reason why their clients, the companies and candidates deal with them isn't because of the logo on the door. It's because of the type of consultant that they are and the type of person, and they're very much a relationship heavy business. So what we've done, because one of the things that caps recruiters is their ability, what they can earn in a recruitment agency. And then they're also working under a PAYG model. So they're incurring a lot of, 45% tax and then taking, 90 days to get paid their commission. So what XRecruiter's done, we've established them as independent business owners. So they have a proprietary limited company. We create their own brand, marketing. They own 100% of the business, and essentially we're a white label company for them to run their own recruitment agency. So they don't have to worry about legal, accounting, finance, marketing, admin. We take care of all that, and they just stay on the tools and they focus on clients and candidates doing what they do best. We do what we do best, and then they earn minimum 75% of what they bill to 90%. So they're making 3 to 4 times more revenue out of each placement than any other recruitment agency in Australia and the world. And then also they're getting the benefits of being a business owner. So,
because like many technicians, they wouldn't really know how to set up a company and do all the admin and legal and marketing side of things. So you guys cut all that away so they can really focus on their time as billable hours, basically, and what they love doing, what they're great at doing.
Yeah. The big thing, opportunity cost. And when you're wearing 15 different hats as a business owner, it affects your billings and affects your relationships with clients and candidates. So we take a lot of that admin burden away from them so they can do what they love best.
Yeah, great. So you guys take between a 10 and 25% cut of their billings, is that right? Yep.
Right.
And how's that range determined? Is it based on the size of their billings? It comes down as they get bigger, or?
Yeah, it's a tiered model. So the first 500,000 is at 25%. 500 to $1 million is 20%. Million to 10 million, et cetera, et cetera. So the more they bill, the better they're doing. Obviously, scale is a big thing. So the cheaper it gets to run their agency.
Great. And are you finding many adding other team members to their own small recruiting business?
We've got a few people adding like virtual assistants, like virtual admin, things like this. No one yet. We're pretty new. So I'd imagine once there's a little bit more stability with our XRecruiter partners, that the recruiters are a part of the network, the natural progression there moving forward will be adding staff. So that's an exciting next step for us that we're keen to go through the journey with our partners with as well.
Yeah. So what offers some training and support on how to, ironically, recruit recruiters, onboard them, train them, lead them, manage them, etc. But you see that model building out for your clients as adding other recruiters to the team, not necessarily the services that you guys do for your fee.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. Love it. Fantastic. How did you start out?
Take it away, Declan.
all right.
Go all the way back. Go all the way back.
Go all the way back. So me and Blake were mates through school. And then Blake actually got me my first job at an agency. And then we sort of clicked pretty quick that, hey, if we could work out how to do this for ourselves, there'd be a bit more of the pie we could take. So Blake started his agency after what 14 months experience. I started mine a year later, had a couple of years experience, and then branched out. We we didn't really chat because in recruitment you sort of see, or we were told that all your competitors or other recruiters are your enemies and don't communicate with them. There's no value add. So it was a couple of years we didn't talk after being colleagues for 12 to 18 months. And then COVID hit. Our pipeline of clients evaporated overnight. I think it was about this week in 2020, and it just vanished. And I called Blake. I said, mate, did your pipeline just fall over? He's like, yeah, mate, what's going on? So then we started chatting again and then realized that both of us were on the exact same journey. We're both a couple of months apart, same age, similar sized companies. We had a couple of staff at the time, and we were like, started over the next 6 months brainstorming different ideas like what you chat about as a business owner. What supply costs are you paying? How are you doing this? How are you managing staff? What's your process for clients? How do you win retained work? And just started, every single question that you ask yourself and you can't get an answer back for. This time we were getting answers back, and it was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like, we actually have someone that understands me, as opposed to coming home to your partner at night and whinging or talking about your day, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll just find another candidate. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So it was a big value add. And then we got to the end of 2020, and one of our first customer, Halisoft, is still with us. He wanted to branch out and do his own thing, and he wanted the guidance and support of Blake. So there was sort of an unofficial XRecruiter thing happening. We registered the business XRecruiter, and then over the next 18 months, we had to, make sure it worked for James, bring in different resources, explain the business model to suppliers, because there's something very unique with XRecruiter. So there's one central location for all invoicing across every service of the business. So we pretty much fund their whole company. So a lot of providers charge a minimum 12-month contract. With XRecruiter, we don't pass that contract commitment on to our recruiters. So we're the holder of the supply costs. So that's the risk. Like, if they're not successful, we obviously owe a lot of money to these corporations. So we worked out that was took a while to convince and create that, because everything had to be separated. And then we launched in August last year. And now we've got, at the time, or March right now, we launched in August, we've got 12 agencies. We've already got our first customer in the US. So there's a lot happening. It's all happening.
That's great. That's awesome, guys. So formally the business started in 2020.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, we didn't make revenue till August last year.
Yep. And how old were you in 2020 when you launched XRecruiter?
When we started it, we were 27.
Yeah, probably 27, 28.
Yep. Great. No, I love the model, and also there's no friction up front, that they don't have to put any cash down, and you can prove yourself obviously with your services, and they can just focus on the billing, and you guys click the ticket, rather than taking like a franchise model. Often you have to put money down up front. I really like that.
Yeah.
And do you have some other key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business?
Well, so obviously one metric is building social proof for people to kind of trust you with their career and their livelihood. Right now, our kind of approach is to say to people who are currently employed, hey, why don't you try this, doing this yourself? So it's not an easy task to get someone who's comfortable, a high performer, in a safe spot, to change over. So we started, August last year. So it's been 9 months. We've got 14 agencies, which is averaging that one and a bit a month. So it's a bit of a challenge explaining a brand new concept to people that have never started their own business before. Like, everything is just uncharted territory. Revenue wise, I think we're at 550K
or 581. I checked.
Yeah, 581 revenue for this financial year, our first year trading.
Right. That's really good, guys. That's great.
Yeah, so that's going well. We invest most of it back into development, marketing, growing. So Declan and I don't take a wage at all. We haven't ever. We've got our own recruitment agencies, which is what's funding XRecruiter at the moment. So the moment we kind of get to scale and have more people on board, then we'll be able to probably eventually pay ourselves. But for now, the priority is just putting all the money into the business and scaling and growing and growing our partners and building out the agencies that want to work with us.
Yeah. And so you each have your own recruitment agency. That's your day job. What number of full-time equivalents did you start XRecruiter with, and how many are you at now after about a year, almost a year's time when this goes live?
Yeah, so Vendito has 13 full-time equivalents. We've got 7 recruiters in the office, and then we've got 6 virtual assistants, which are like candidate resources that help us find and work. So the recruiters in the office work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then we have like a night shift of virtual candidate managers that work the night shift basically to help keep the momentum going. So you would say 13 full-time equivalents.
And sorry, are those virtual assistants based in the Philippines?
Yeah. Oh, Philippines, Malaysia. I think there's one in Colombia as well.
Right.
So it just depends on what the time zone is. So my business has kind of stayed around that number. We've grown a little bit since. However, it's been quite difficult to grow and manage a team whilst trying to do this and balance the time between our agencies and launching XRecruiter. I know Declan, his focus has been much more XRecruiter driven than growing his own agency. So one of us had to make a sacrifice to go, all right, well, one of us needs to go all in here, and so that's Declan's lead on that, and I'm slowly integrating myself more into XRecruiter on a day-to-day basis. Probably do 3-4 hours a day XRecruiter,
Okay.
7-8 hours a day Vendito, which is the other agency.
Yep. And Declan, how big's your recruitment agency?
Yeah, so before we launched XRecruiter, we had 5, 6, including me, full-time recruiters. And then a similar VA system, we had 3 VAs as well. It sort of changed a bit for various reasons, like, one of the consultants moved to Melbourne and, different reasons why things change. And then, XRecruiter's become a lot more heavy lifting on my end. So we've scaled back. We've got 2 full-time recruiters now, and then we've also got 3 VAs at the moment.
And what about XRecruiter? What's the full-time equivalent there? And are they're different people? They just focus on XRecruiter?
Yeah, so we've got a full-time marketing manager. We've got part-time accountant, part-time onboarding specialist. We've got a I don't know if you'd call them full-time equivalents. We've got like a contracted marketing team where there's 4 designers, developers that are helping with the branding and development of XRecruiter. They are contracted full-time, but they're not employees of the business.
Yep.
So actual employees, we've got 4 probably full-time equivalents, I think, right now. We're currently in the process of looking for more media people. So if there's anyone listening to this and you're a media kind of person, you hit us up, trying to recruit on someone's podcast. It's always nice.
What kind of media? Social media?
Content creation, someone that's good behind the camera, can follow us around. They can go physically meet our XRecruiter partners, because the big thing with recruitment agencies is they're not great at marketing themselves. They all look quite boring. They're all very old school in the way they do things. The industry hasn't changed too much in the last 30 years. So our approach is certainly content heavy to promote you, yourself, get the reach, get people knowing about you to grow your business. So we actually have a marketing guy here that full-time just promotes our agencies. So they've got like an outsourced kind of content creation team as well that kind of they plug into.
Yep, great. And your clients at XRecruiter, do you vet them firstly to make sure they're not a dickhead and that they're going to be a high performer, basically, because you don't want them getting 6 months in and falling over?
Yeah, I'd say we probably knock back 90% of the people that want to join XRecruiter, because obviously we're ultimately bankrolling their new agency. So we take all the risk up front, them to have the breathing space and the freedom to go, okay, I'm back. Buy another business. They're going to pay all my resources and get me up and running. All I need to do is focus on billing. If in 3 months' time they pull the pin and go, nah, I'm going to Europe for a holiday and I'm not coming back for a year, we're down. So it is a mutual commitment between us and our partners to go, hey, look, we're happy to invest and get you up and running, but we need your commitment that you're here to build a business and this isn't like laptop CEO type stuff.
Yep. And do you have an issue with geographical clashing? Like, do you have a limit in a city, for example?
So interesting, we've recently partnered with the RCSA, which is the Recruitment Council of Australia, and under their code of conduct, so we need people to have at least been in recruitment for 2 years, and you can't actually put those restrictions on anyone. So it's considered cartelling, because then you would dictate where people can and can't work. Franchise models and business-based models, they can tell where the offices are, but given there's no ownership and no essential authority across these companies, then yeah, it's open range. Like we got people on the northern beaches, we got people in like Parramatta, Park, New South Wales, all across Brisbane suburbs.
Yep.
So yeah, free reign, any industry, any location.
Recruitment's an online business too. At the end of the day, it's a people's business, but recruitment is digital. It's, seeing people's profiles, reading it on the computer, calling them, and then meeting them. So the beauty about recruitment is it doesn't matter if there's 10 of the same recruitment agencies sitting in the same office. They all have a different way of viewing people, searching people, finding people, talking to people. So that's probably the special part of recruitment and why we can scale XRecruiter so quickly and aggressively without any geographical boundaries. Because ultimately, as long as you've got a computer, the internet connection, you'll be able to reach whoever you need to, screen them via video call or face to face, and then place them at your client. So yeah, that's a luxury that we probably underestimate before we started XRecruiter, is around no geographical boundaries.
Yeah,
Yep.
to the point where in 6 months, supporting a recruiter, a big tech recruiter in Texas, in Austin.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just to show it's the same conversation. Even like you talk to people, like my diary is literally from 5 to 7 a.m. having calls with people in the US and Canada. And it's the same conversation. They're going through the same stuff as us, and we just want to grow as fast as we can with the right people, and they're pretty much our colleagues. So we've got to make sure that we all get along, and it doesn't mean they're all going to be 30-year-old males.
Yep.
Like we want as much demographic as possible.
Yeah.
So does that mean then you've swung your marketing focus to America or US and Canada?
Yeah. We're currently marketing in the UK, Canada, US, and Australia. The market in the UK and America is like so ridiculously much larger than Australia. In Australia, there's 26,000 recruiters and 9,000 recruitment agencies. In London, in the UK, in the city alone, there's more than 9,000 recruitment agencies. So, so that goes to show like the sheer volume of recruitment over in, international than compared to Australia. So obviously we're in Australia, we want to make it our baby, get stable in Australia first before we go too hard at international. But at the same time, there's a lot of low-lying fruit out there, where people are like, hey, look, just give me a hand, let's get up and going, and I'm ready to rock and roll. So we'll never knock back someone if they're a good fit, based on their location. But yeah, it's exciting being able to go pretty much anywhere in the world and go, hey, we can support you in whatever it is you're trying to achieve.
Now, before we move on to the next questions, do you want to give a shout out to your own podcast? Because there might be some people in the recruitment industry listening to this one that may want to hear more about from your podcast.
Thanks, man. Blake's always good at the intro.
So Confessions of a Recruiter is the podcast that we run. It's a weekly podcast where we get a guest on every single week. They can either be, an entry-level recruiter up into like a celebrity. We've had celebrity recruiters on our podcast. Tune in every Monday. That's when the episodes drop, and there's heaps of value. I mean, I've never been a big podcaster before, Confessions of a Recruiter, and we feel that the sheer value that we've gotten over the last 9 months doing this podcast trumps any natural progression that we've had in experiences in actually being a recruiter. It's not often that you get to sit down and allocate an hour every single week to speak to someone in your industry on how they do things, what their market is, how they're finding things, and what their strategies are. So if there is recruiters that are listening to this and aren't listening to Confessions of a Recruiter, maybe add that in, because the compounding effect of 12 months of listening to a podcast is huge. You might not like walk away from one podcast with a light bulb moment, but it's like going to the gym. The more you do it, the more you listen, the more you participate, the better you will be in 12 months' time.
Yeah, totally agree. And I learn a shitload from doing these podcasts, talking to other business owners around the world, different industries, and pick up nuggets all the time. I love it. Fun fact, Australia is the highest podcast listeners in the world per capita. 40% of Australians over the age of 13 listen to at least one podcast a week, and 10%.
Wow.
10% listen to 6 or 7 episodes a week. So yeah, we certainly own that, man.
Crazy. That's awesome.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Hasn't come yet, but we're still in the thick of it.
I have to delete this question. Everyone bloody answers it that way.
Yeah. Look,
I think the say.
it's a success is a moving target.
That's the next question. What does success look like for you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a hard one. Like if someone looking in would look at us and go, oh, geez, these guys are killing it. They're super successful. But that's not how we feel. We feel we're still learning and kind of tripping from one problem or solution to the next one and just trying to figure it out as we go. So, we interviewed the CEO of a recruitment agency here in Brisbane. They turn over 70 million a year. They've got 70 recruiters at their business. And I asked the same thing. I said, look, one day we hope to get our business to a point where everything's just running nice and smoothly and it's a well-oiled machine. And she laughed and she said,
never going to happen.
It will never happen. It'll be new challenges, new problems, new things that you face every single day. And if you're thinking that one day your business will be just this well-oiled machine and it won't be stressful, you've got another thing coming. So we're just getting prepared to learn to love the chaos of working through it and success.
Yep, that's it. Welcome to small business ownership.
That's it.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Depending on your niche, if it's a B2B type of business, then a lot of companies I find lack LinkedIn awareness and promotion. LinkedIn is a lead generation tool. A lot of people think of social media as like where you play and you have fun and you read things and you do it in your downtime. However, if you're a B2B business, being on LinkedIn is really, really important for reach to see who's doing what, market insight, prospecting new organizations. If it's something like a retail kind of business to consumer business, then I would just put a lot of focus and energy into doing one thing really right. So that might be one ad, one kind of message, rather than trying to overcomplicate your messaging and your story. Kind of like, I actually read this article which rang true this morning. And it's this tech guy, he just sold his business for 250 million. And he said, look, if you are a business and you're trying to grow and you're trying to add all these new features and you're trying to reinvent the wheel and all these services, just remember the really big businesses that do one thing really well always beat the other businesses. For example, Zoom. They just do links to videos and they're a monster company. They do one thing really well and that's all they focus their time on. If you try and get too smart and complicated and fluffy, you'll dilute what your message is and why people would even come to you in the first place. So just stick to one thing and do it really, really well.
Yeah, definitely. And LinkedIn, I read the other day, they're almost at 1 billion users. So in the next year or so, they'll tip over that threshold. I haven't really started marketing on it yet or using it, but I hear it is getting better by the month. They're a bit behind the how efficient Facebook and Google are, obviously at serving ads, etc., and a little bit more expensive, but that is a massive base of professionals to tap into.
Yeah, I think I spend 90% of my day on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So a long time.
And then also tying in your personal brand, like instead of just marketing everything that the company does, promoting you as a person, and especially in small businesses, like your personal brand matters the most. So being able to have that and relatability before they reach out to you is a big thing.
Definitely. And how did you fund the business?
We basically just use the profits of our recruitment agency to fund XRecruiter. That's what it's mainly been. We've applied for a few grants recently. We've just kind of realized that there's these grants out there that can help fund your business, which we were a bit mind blown with. We're thinking, gee, someone's going to give us 100 grand for being, trying to launch a new product, etc. So
yeah, the government's Government's shit at marketing grants.
Yeah, yeah. So
We don't want to give away too much money.
No, that's right.
So we're trying grants. That's going to be step two to help contribute towards the development cost of the platform. So that's kind of where we're at from an investment side of things.
Have you guys looked at EMDG?
Yeah, yeah. We had a meeting yesterday about it.
Yep. So you can get 40, 80 or 150 grand a year, depending on, I can't remember what the criterion are. But I'd totally forgotten. I thought it was only for exporting physical products, EMDG, Export Marketing Development Grant. But I had a guest on the cast last year, and she's here in Australia, but she's got online courses, and she gets 150 grand a year, I think it was, from the Australian government, through the EMDG to pump into Facebook ads to target her client base. She's mainly in America. So it's a great initiative by the government, but it also applies for service-based businesses.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
I think it's dropped down a bit though. I think the top tier is about 56,000.
Right.
Yeah. Currently, yeah. But yeah, we're eligible for a few. So like the R&D, the mission one in Queensland, and then the export one. If you're over in America or advertising in any country, then yeah, you can. I think it's like if you're physically over there, it's like $300 a day per person while you're marketing your business. So
yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
it is really awesome. There's a few good consultants as well that help organise all of that. Otherwise, it's a bit of a minefield trying to work it all out yourself.
It is. It's also good to get on their newsletters when they announce new grants, both at the state level and federal. Have you seen the Entrepreneurs Program grant?
No, what's that?
I'll shoot it through to you after this, but because we've got a new government, it may be changing, but it's...
Everyone says that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you're doing over 1.5 million a year, you can get a $20,000 Entrepreneurs Program grant, which is to help you grow. It's that $20,000 is entitled. It's not competitive. So, and once you've got that, I think you can get it every year or every 3 years. Sorry, but once you've got it, you can then apply for the next grant, which is an accelerated grant, which is competitive. It's another 20 grand. And then after that, there's another one, which I can't remember the title of, but I think it's up to $500,000. So it's definitely worth becoming friends with a good government person that knows a lot about grants. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Yeah, I think so.
I was actually thinking, in my drive this morning, and it's funny that you've asked me that question. If someone asked me if you had to do it all again, would you? And I don't know. It takes a lot of effort and energy. I was thinking,
what else would you go into?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, recruitment. I just think there's a lot of opportunity right now for the right people in recruitment because it is still working on the same comm structure, it's still the same process. Like no one's rocked the boat, and hopefully we can be the first. But yeah, like otherwise, a lot of other businesses like heavy capital businesses to get started.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we had a conversation the other day, and we this was just a bit of banter between us, but we were having a laugh, and Declan said, "Mate, recruitment is a graveyard. No one has done anything new for 40 years. So if we can just be the first just to shake it up and just go through this initial drive of pushing the recruitment industry to change maybe their models, how they do things, how they consider employment or their processes, then that's going to be a really exciting time for us. But it's a while till we get there, and when we're there, we'll definitely let you know."
Yeah, great, good. Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it? Can be from your own businesses or from XRecruiter.
What's yours?
Well, like getting started, that was probably the most stressful part. So like the resignation period, I had 2 months runway of savings. The week I was meant to resign from my old agency, or the week I resigned from my old agency, we found out we were having our first daughter at the time. We hadn't been, we hadn't had much set up or anything. So like, and you can if you're a good recruiter, you can live a pretty good lifestyle. So that sort of got turned off on a tap. Like we were living in a nice apartment just outside the CBD, me and my partner D, and then with our one son Archie, and then like went to Hawaii the year before, cocktail nights, all that, and then that all just got turned off on a tap, and I had no money. And then the first 2 months, like trying to work out if you can make it, unexpected bills, all that stuff was probably the sitting in this restaurant and I had like $2,000 left. I was like, shit, are we going to make it? And then, yeah, luckily 5 years ago, that invoice got paid. And yeah, that was 5 years ago.
And when you resigned, I assume they would have walked you straight away. They don't want you hanging around.
Correct. Yeah, no, actually, yeah. So I actually said I'm leaving today. I'm starting my new business on Monday. Like, no, you're not. You're staying. You've got a week's notice. So I said, no, I can't. I got to go. So I didn't bail out the door, and there was a few other people that just lied to our boss and said, "Oh, I'm not doing anything." And then a month later, they pop up as a recruitment agency. So I was the only one that was in the eye and said, "I'm out," and left. So yeah, it was all the. I think the most nerve-wracking thing is the stories you tell yourself in your head. Nothing really. You can't really get yourself into too much trouble that bad. Like you can end up in debt and get pretty far backwards financially if you'd be silly with money. But a lot of the stories you tell yourself early on are probably worse than anything that ever happened that
Yeah,
I've found.
one of my favorite Mark Twain quotes is, I've had many troubles in my life, some of which actually happened." So we do tend to project
There you go.
the shitty times that never actually eventuate. And that's common.
Yeah.
It's a very stressful move or change that you did. So that's not uncommon at all.
When COVID fell over for that week, and then it all came back pretty quick.
Yeah, I reckon COVID was the first time I ever sat there and thought, this might be it. For maybe, let's say, a week, and then I dusted myself off and was like, "Oh, what are you talking about? Let's just keep ripping in." So there's another quote that I like, and it's your imagination always runs wilder than the truth. And if you stay in your head, generally you always consider such a worst case scenario that never turns out. So you just need to keep thinking back to reality, and usually reality is not that bad. It's all in your head.
Yeah. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
For me, leadership. I never managed, led anyone, never been a captain of a footy team. So that was my biggest downfall that I had to focus on.
Managing people, yeah, being a leader, yeah. Yeah. I think mine was actually just setting a good example. I used to be somewhat the show's about me, and used to just run my own ship. And
What's changed?
oh mate,
Now you two don't have a fight on air.
and so the one big realization, like when I first started Vendito, I worked out of my parents' office. I employed like 6 or 7 people in my first couple of months, and they were all my mates. It was a bit of a crazy wild time. I think we were like 24, 25, and there was a lot of testosterone in the room. It felt like a mini Wolf of Wall Street kind of thing.
Yeah.
And one weekend, I went out and had a blinder of a weekend, and I didn't turn up to work on Monday, and no one had a key to the office. And I had like 10 reports from my mum at the time, and all my staff were like sitting out the front of the office for like 3 hours waiting for their boss to turn up and open the door so they could start work. And my mum ripped me so hard and was like, "You are responsible for these people's lives. You need to start acting responsible." And that was the biggest wake up call that I had, was I can't just do what I feel like doing. I need to take more accountability and responsibility for the people around me. And that was probably the biggest learning curve that I have, was like the light bulb moment of, okay, no, I need to be serious here because I've got other people depending on me. So I think that was probably one of the.
Never even heard that story before.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I don't tell many people that, mate.
Oh, you just told a shit ton of people.
Yeah.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
I don't know. I love it all.
Yeah, like when I'm
Bring it
getting
on.
up at 4 a.m. and jumping on a call, and if they don't show up, that's probably the most exciting thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. It's just so exciting. Like you can sleep 9 hours a night and you wake up tired, but we're running on 5, 6 hours of sleep and you're still buzzing and smashing copies, and every day something new's happening. Like you get an email from a partner or a new recruiter, or like you get a new inquiry from like a person who's got way, way, way more recruitment experience than you, and they're a big dog, and then they're asking you how to get started. So like, yeah, every day's a buzz.
Yeah, agreed.
Got our national conference coming up in June 1st, and we're driving an RV from Brisbane to Sydney, interviewing recruiters along the way, and then parking that up at the expo. And yeah, there's just so much we're going to America to launch agencies, and they're just, I don't know. There's not one part I don't. Maybe just
The only one thing that actually, the only one thing I would say is family time. You know, sometimes I get home and I'm like, I wish I could spend a little bit more time with my daughter. And I don't want to see her grow up too fast and not be there. That's probably the only one kind of soft spot that I have in the journey right now, is wanting to make sure that I'm there for my family and I'm not working too hard. And then I look back in 10 years time and I regret it. So it's just trying to balance that, I think.
Yeah, it is hard, especially when you're starting out and the kids are young as well. People get caught up in the excitement of the new business, etc., and then think I've just got to set things up and then I'll spend time with my kids. But the greatest bond with children is usually created before they're 9 or 10. So if you miss out on that time, I've had guests on before that 2 or 3 guests I can recall that have said that was their biggest regret, is they just worked too much in that time. And if they had stopped and thought about the numbers into the future, they actually could have taken 5 hours a week less work and spent it with their family. So it's
we were in a pretty good, to bring that up, like before XRecruiter, we were in a pretty good spot. Like neither of us worked more than 35, 40 hours a week. We had every weekend at home. Life was pretty good. We had money. And now that's all started. I feel like I'm back in a 6 square meter office again. Just starting out and trying to find money and grants and grow this thing, and all the time it goes back in. So it's like we're back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, back in the grind.
So it sounds like you're a little bit under-resourced. You could do with some more people in the business, which obviously you need capital for. Have you considered taking on a small amount of investment or an investor?
Yeah, that is definitely something that we've considered. Originally, we didn't, because maybe the ego in us thought, we don't want someone breathing down our necks and telling us how to run our ship if they've got some sort of financial investment in the business. But I think over the last probably month, typically, when we're talking about development of the platform further and getting it out to more people, I think it's probably a little naive to think that we couldn't get some smart money where there's probably people with better connections and ideas than us to kind of catapult us to the next level. I think that would be probably something we look at in a couple of months.
There's also the opportunity costs of losing the first mover advantage. If you guys truly are one of the first out there and accelerate fast into the US, taking a little bit of money. One of my favorite sayings I've heard is a Chinese proverb: it's better to have the tail of an elephant than the body of an ant. So to give away a little bit of equity. You guys have already got, sales, you set up, been going for about almost a year. You've proven the model. Now you just need to scale it. And I reckon you'd get a good valuation on it. You wouldn't have to give away that big of a chunk. You'd certainly still very much have control of the business. And 2 things could happen. You cut your time down a bit for more of that family time. But at the same time, the business should accelerate faster than what you guys could do on your own.
Yeah, that's what we've come around to agreeing on. And by the time this drops, we may have
an investor.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, as I always say, recruitment's the number one thing a manager does, ironically. I'm talking to you guys. And that goes for business owners when they're recruiting their shareholders, just to make sure you don't hire a dickhead, whether it's in the business or as a shareholder. You just do due diligence, take your time, really check them out. And pretty much interview them, and because there are some great investors out there. I've just helped several businesses raise money recently, and I've seen good and bad investors in some of the businesses I chair the board of.
Just to pick your ear on that, what makes a good investor? Like we've been told about smart money and people that can add value. Would you have like a checklist or your top 3 things that you'd go, all right, that's going to be a good investor?
Well, it's a dickhead test. They're not a dickhead. Yeah. So for me, that's their ego.
How do you test that?
Well, you spend time with them and you ask questions, you reference check. The main thing is to spend as much time with them as possible, and conversation, let your gut make those, tell you whether they're a good person or not, and check them out. If you can go through your network, obviously that's safer. If you know people, start with the 3 Fs anyway: friends, family, and fools. Work out how much money obviously you need. You may not need that much money to accelerate, but you could raise it potentially through your network, through your friends, family, and fools. You could also look at, because you've been operating your other 2 businesses, potentially debt from the bank. There's a heap of funding options, but you've got to find those shareholders or investors that are aligned with your values. They're nice people, they're humble, and it's as simple as going out for a few meals and observing how they treat particularly the wait staff. whether they're genuine or not, or they're an arsehole or a dickhead. But I'd start with the network because it's safer, less risk, not you.
Even like some of our podcast guests, we've
Yeah.
had Andrew Banks on from Shark Tank. We've had people like Sam last night. She built a $70 million company from scratch. Yeah, there's definitely
people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So you need to decide if you need it to be smart money, i.e. really aligned with what you're doing. So Andrew Banks, obviously huge recruitment experience over the last 40 years here in Australia. What was it? Morgan and Banks? Was that the name of the business?
Yep.
Yeah. Own 20% of the market.
Yeah. So, but you need to weigh that up against, so it is smart money. It's also just money. It's cash. But the last thing is they've got to be nice people. I have after many years experience, 24 years doing this, a rule of not doing work, whether it's sitting on a board or having shareholders with people I don't like.
Yeah, Andrew's a gentleman.
He's awesome.
Yeah. So first thing is work out your number, how much you actually need, plan it out into the future, what you need. But at the same time, just coming back to how we got onto my rant here, that in those figures put in that you guys reduce your hours so they're reasonable, because that'll also help you have more energy and focus into the business anyway, and your family gets more time. That may mean hiring an extra person than what you thought you'd need or whatever. Just plan it out, and then, that number may not actually be too high.
Never even thought about that before.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Find yourself some more time while you scale a startup.
That's right. And the right investor, so this rum and whiskey distillery in the Gold Coast that I chair and I've invested in, we had a road trip last week around Tasmania, 4.5 days. We had the founder, the ops manager, and 7 investors on a very small bus that I drove, a 12-seater, with a 4-month-old baby in there as well, I must add you, probably the best behaved baby I've ever met. And we did 12 distilleries in 4.5 days, 3 breweries, 3 wineries, a lot of fine dining. And that was an excellent crucible, because that bus was very small, to really get to know these investors. Now, they're already on the cap table, but because they'd come from the founders network, they were trusted, etc. But really spending time with them and getting to know them, because, their network, their intelligence, they're all smart, sophisticated business owners. They're out there. You just need to find the right ones and be very strong, and not in a position where you have to take money. It's right. We need this. We want this to grow, but if we don't get it, we just grow slower.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, back to the questions. What do you love most about growing a small business?
I love the people around you succeeding and growing. The thing that I get most value out of, or I feel a bit chuffed of, is bringing someone in that doesn't really know too much, that is eager to learn, and you watch them grow and develop as a person. I think that's really exciting. And I think that's one of the biggest value adds as a small business owner, is having that intimate relationship with your colleagues where you can all support each other, help each other grow, and look out for each other. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I like about small business.
Yeah, I was the same. It's one thing to have a big month that's doing heaps on your own, but then to see someone else do it and the excitement on their face, and they get the buzz that you get, and then you look back and realize you're the one that teach them and taught them and gave them that gateway.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's insane. Like it's one thing to get a candidate a job, another thing to see someone succeed at an agency, then it's another thing to see someone start their own agency and blow it out of the park. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah. Levels.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Imposter syndrome, that we don't deserve it or we're not good enough.
Probably a big one. I think maybe also for me, giving people more responsibility. I think being able to delegate and allow people to be themselves and handle a process is a bit of a learning experience, where you've just got to, even though you're like, that you could do it better, you got to let someone else do it not as well, so they can at least have the chance to do it as good as you. So that's probably a big one too.
It's common and hard for business owners to let go, because we have a bit of control issues, which is totally understandable. But you've got to break that mindset, change it, and change your habits, and genuinely let go. Otherwise, you can't scale.
Yeah.
Or you'll be tied to the business. The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Consistency.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of mates, even within our friendship circles, have a crack at starting an agency or business, and they just fizzle out. Like they put a social media post on their first day and they never post again. It's like how you do anything, how you do everything, how you do anything, or whatever that quote is. Like consistency.
I think probably, this is just me purely speculating, I think maybe a big reason why business owners fail is they don't proactively reach out to people in their industry for support, guidance, and advice. Um, it's really easy to be siloed and to feel like you're in it by yourself and there's, you've got the world on your shoulders and you're trying to get things done. And you'd be surprised how charitable people are with their time if someone actually reaches out to them and goes, "Hey, you're in the industry too. I thought I'd be love to get a coffee. I've got a couple of questions." People generally like feeling useful. So if you are reaching out to someone if you're struggling, most of the time they'll come back and go, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's catch up. Let's figure out how we can solve this issue together." Two complete strangers. So I would say reach out to people in the industry and make an effort to not only seek advice, but give advice if you see someone else that could use it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course and add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
I've got some big mistakes. Do you want me to share them?
Yeah, go. Yeah.
Okay. When I first started Vendito, I think I told you about this earlier in this recording that I hired all my mates.
All right, I was going to ask about that. Yep. How'd that go?
Yeah. No, they don't work for me anymore. So we're still all friends. But when I first started Vendito, I was full of energy and I was convincing all my friends, I'm like, "Guys, I've just started this business. Let's all work together. We're all going to crush it together and, build this big monster." And I think in my first 12 months, I think I had 12 full-time staff, and it was very chaotic and crazy. And the biggest challenge that I had was drawing a line between friendship and business. And it was impossible for me to change the culture of the company because of the pre-existing relationships that we already had before the agency. So my biggest advice when hiring friends is to make sure there's a clear dynamic between boss and employee before hiring them. And I didn't do that. And eventually, over a 2-year period, I basically just had to let go of my friends one after another every other month because it was impossible for me to bring in new people to my business and set a good standard for them to follow because, maybe a good mate of mine's like giving a sarcastic joke or like, telling people in the office like, "Oh, what'd you have a fight with the lawnmower, mate? Look at your new haircut," and like just these really undertone, like inappropriate types of conversations that, you can have with your mates, but you can't really have it with colleagues. So, that would be my advice for, growing and starting out is just be careful.
It is tough. Yeah, hiring friends and family is tough, but it's not impossible. And there's obviously upside there because you know them and you know their strengths. But at the end of the day, it just comes back to you've got to do your fucking job as a manager. Again, recruitment, set the right expectations. Here's your job descriptions, regular one-on-ones, coaching, feedback, all that. They're no different. That you're friendly with them because they're friends, but you got to treat them the same as the others.
One other thing that I think is really important that I think a lot of new business owners fall into the trap of is ego hiring and thinking that their business is a direct reflection of how many employees they've got. I fell into that trap when, I first started and I hired all my mates and I had 12 people and I thought I was crushing it, but I wasn't. I was literally losing money to hire all these people. It was stressful. I made no money and it was crazy. And I felt like I couldn't let people go because my ego was so dented with, if I let 2 people go and I'm only down to 10, then I'm failing. I'm losing. People are going to think I'm not as good as I think I am. And I had to really let go of that ego statistic to really be able to actually make money and grow my business. So the one thing is if someone's not making you money or doing the right thing, just pull the pin as soon as possible and don't think that you're a failure. Your business is going backwards because your headcount is going down.
Yeah, that's good points. Declan, you got anything on adding people to the team? Any wins or mistakes or advice? It's a big area, obviously, not just because that's your game, but it's as I say in the podcast, I think people are the hardest thing in small business and where the value's at. So it'd be great to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, dropping the standards and realizing that your staff aren't bad. It's probably you that's bad. Like they're a direct reflection of you. I've learned that as well. And then yeah, just dropping the standards, letting one thing slide. That one thing becomes a couple of things. You compound, and you can go backwards really quick. That's what I've learned.
Yep, great. What are some things you recommend building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
I think we did a product company manifesto,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought they were all just woo-woo that marketing agencies charge you a shitload of money for. But our product guy ran us through it. It's obviously really important for the type of business we're in now, but I wish I did it back when I started Blended, or maybe a year in when I knew who I was and what I wanted to be. And then now we've got like a mission, vision, value statement. We've got our customer personas. We've got like all the different features of our product. And it just really, like, the way we all communicate internally, the way we communicate externally, little slogans, buzzwords, all that type of stuff, I think has really changed the dynamic in the team, and something that I thought was just, a load of shit, and never had the money to do in the past. But we did a 6-hour workshop over 2 days, brought us all closer together. And then when we go and repeat that now to our potential clients or employees, they're like, mate, this sounds absolutely awesome. So yeah, having that, that's been something.
Yeah. I never understood the power of sitting down and verbalizing to your staff where you want to be and what your goals are. And I think the more transparent you are with the team, the more buy-in they get, and they all want to see, just as much as you want them to succeed, they want to see you succeed as well. A lot of them, if they're good employees, they don't want to let you down. So if you sit with them and be transparent with like what your vision is, what your mission is, and what you hope to achieve over the next 5 years, as well as get what their goals are over the next 5 years, I think there can be this really nice alignment internally where everyone knows where each other's at, everyone's on the same page and can work towards a common goal.
Yeah, look, I agree. And I think we don't do it intentionally as business owners. Most of us, we're just too busy. We forget to communicate what the next plan or vision is, or the values, etc. So we under communicate. We need to be over communicating a lot more than what we actually think we should. Declan, back to you're talking about vision and core values, etc. Have you read the Jim Collins books, Built to Last and Good to Great?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I just didn't get through Good to Great. I heard it's really good.
Did you start it and give up?
Yeah.
Why?
Hey?
That's not like you, mate.
Yeah.
You got to finish the things you start, mate.
Yeah, you could be
OCD, average, but
OCD like me. How long ago though, Declan, did you start reading that?
12 months ago.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think
I just listen to audiobooks, and then you just sort of get listened.
Mate, reading a book and writing the key takeaways of each page, I found, is the most powerful way of absorbing.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why I just sort of skip around and never finish the book. They're all just audio.
Here's a Harry hot tip. This is BT's Harry hot tip. When you're reading a book, read it not because you feel like you need to read something, but get a notepad out, get the book out, read a whole page and go, what was my key takeaway, dot point. And then after, 200 pages, you'll have 200 dot points of the key takeaways of each page. You'll be able to read them through, it'll sink in, and then you'll be able to regurgitate it as content. I actually, for like 2 years
How
on
many
my
times
LinkedIn,
have you done that?
No, I did it for like 2 years on my LinkedIn. I gave up. PS everyone. So, but I did do it for a while. For 2 years, I did it, and I read heaps of books, and then wrote all the dot points of the key takeaways, and then posted it on LinkedIn. It's just like a random quote, takeaway. Whatever.
Oh, is that where that came from?
Yeah. And I absorbed all the information, and it was far more enjoyable than like reading 3 pages and going, what did I just read again? Oh mate, I'm not even absorbing this. It was more of like a little bit of an interactive type of moment with the book, which was way more enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm a bit of an efficiency geek, so I prefer to do most of my professional development on the move, either exercising or driving a car. So audiobooks and podcasts are it for me. And I used to think I had a bad memory, but it's not too bad. So I can retain most of what I listen to. which is great. But I don't know. I'd get through 3 times more material on audio, particularly because I listen at 1.5 speed, not 1 speed, than sitting there. And I just actually don't enjoy sitting and reading. I'd rather
How long
listen.
would it take you to finish one book if you're sitting down and writing after every single page?
6 months.
Oh, I would finish a book in like 2 weekends.
Yeah.
So it would be my Saturday or Sunday. I'd go get myself some bacon and eggs. I'd go sit in the sun on a bean bag, and then I would just pump out a 4 or 5 hour session up until lunchtime, and then I'd have lunch and go enjoy the rest of my day.
No,
And
that's
if
good.
you just sit there for 10 hours and you could read a full book in 2 weeks,
Yeah, most
2
books are
weekends.
around 8 hours reading
Yeah,
length.
yeah,
All right. Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
we haven't. How have you handled balance? How have you handled balance, Declan?
I feel like last year was a pretty soft start for XRecruiter compared to what's happened this year. Like, because we didn't understand sales scripts, we didn't know how to talk to people, explain the model. Like, there was just so much shit we didn't, and then we really focused on confining that this year. And it's been, yeah, we had 4 agencies last year and 8 already by March.
That's
So
great. Mm.
we're having 1 a week sign up. And these are like solid recruiters that we picked to go ahead with. So I think yeah, we're completely unbalanced at the moment. But it's getting, yeah, I don't know.
What do you think, Troy? What's a good strategy for balance?
Oh, I've waxed and waned. There have been really shit times, some good times, but for me, it's I'm extremely organised and disciplined. But I have a tendency to overcommit, and I used to be really bad overcommit and underdeliver. So I've gotten to really work on that in the last 10 years to say no to things and come back to my why. Why am I, doing what I do? What's my main thing I'm focusing on? But it can be really hard. I mean, I don't have that much buffer in my calendar at the moment. So if I get sick or something, my daughter's sick or something goes wrong, then yeah, fuck, I feel it. I guess building that space, you need to, but it's hard because you guys sound like me. You love what you do, and it's really hard not to work. I used to work 100-hour weeks when I first started, two companies at the same time, of course. And it's really challenging for me not to work. So I've got to put structures in place. I've got a chocolate Labrador Carlton supporter that needs to be go on a bushwalk or down to the beach every day, for example. Coffees and beers and lunches with mates, etc. So otherwise, I could get back to working at probably not 100-hour weeks because I'm old, but 80-hour weeks. So you've got to be intentional about it. Put things in place. For you guys, it sounds like a balance of giant enthusiasm, loving what you're doing, especially the new business, but maybe capitalizing the business a bit better so you've got the resources in there and just commit to that 40 hours a week across both your businesses. And it's hard. You just got to keep working it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's yeah, work in progress. That's for sure.
And exercise too. I mean, sleep 8 hours, scheduling your exercise too. And I certainly don't nail that every week, but I've actually got a plan for it. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. Shit will flow into that time, and I'm not intentional.
Yeah.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
What about you, Declan?
Yeah, I've got a full-time coach is like 36 grand for this year. So I've got like sales, called Swish sales training. We did a boot camp, 3-day boot camp last year. Then I brought him on this year just for the owner to have one-on-one calls and weekly coaching. So I've seen a lot of value in that. And then yeah, just the podcast, workout.
Yeah, been a bit. I've done like Tony Robbins and a couple of seminars and all that kind of stuff.
That stuff just can't get me going.
Look, it gets you going for like 2.5 weeks and then kind of forget about it.
So you've walked across fire.
Yeah, I've walked across hot coals before. That was fun. Got a little coal stuck in between my feet. So yelling "cool moss, cool moss, cool moss" as I was walking along the coals. It didn't work too well once I finished. But there was actually a group that I'm a part of, and I got so much tangible value out of it. It's $100 a month. It's a guy called Lewis Mocker, and he's in Brisbane. He used to like trade like foreign currencies, like forex trader. And now he just does basically workshops and online coaching to teach people how to start a lean business, how to think about different principles and values and change their perception. So if anyone wants a low budget, not 36 grand a year, but a low budget way of getting value out of an external community that has different ideas and values, then the Lewis Mocker, I think it's called School of Mastery, something like this. You might want to just Google it, and that's it's a pretty good value, if you want to do personal development.
Yep. So you've mentioned coaches. Anything on mentors?
That's sort of becoming our podcast, really, for us. Um,
No formal mentors.
we don't have a formal mentor.
No formal mentors.
Yep.
Is that what would you suggest there? Do we just find someone and reach out to them, or?
Yeah, you need different ones for different seasons. So you need to work out, this is where I am now, gap analysis. This is where we want to be in 2 years. What are the main 2 or 3 things we really need to nail? It might be the brand. It might be sales, which is what you're doing now, Declan. It might be finance, whatever it is, 1 or 2, and then get 1 or 2 mentors in that space that have been, it'd be better if they've been business owners, and just catch up with them once a month for a coffee or a lunch. Go with your questions, obviously, and if they've given you any homework, make sure you've done it before you turn up the next one. Otherwise, they're going to drop you. So you need to work out what knowledge gap and skill gap have you and the business got at the moment, and how do you plug that hole from their deep experience.
We just go to our clients. Like, yeah, I reckon all those people we need are probably the ones we're working with right now.
Yep.
Yeah. Probably reach out to a lot of people we're working with at the moment.
Yep, that's good. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors at the moment?
No.
Cool. All right, Declan and Blake, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Probably not kidding yourself and just doing the work. There's no magic like bullet. There's no secret recipe that you're going to figure out and everything's going to be great. It just takes hard work every day, show up every day, and apply yourself. There's going to be no secret shortcut.
Yeah, don't get off the basics and thinking there is. Like, I was 6 months in and got myself onto Sky News with Alan Jones and Peter Credlin. I was like, shit, I've made it. And then the next day I was cold calling clients.
Yeah.
Or like, we bought a family home. I'm like, sweet, this is awesome. Everyone's happy. And then you're like, shit, now I got to pay for the thing. So it's just like the same thing every single time. And then it's like, oh, we've thought of XRecruiter. It's the greatest idea. This is going to be sick. And I'm like, oh, shit, now we got to like deliver on it.
Yeah.
So it's just, realizing there's no finish line.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
I've got a book in general, and it's for people that aren't really good at reading or don't enjoy reading. It's called Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah, I read that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I read it when I was probably 16. My old boss gave it to me and said, Blake, read this book. It's like 90 pages. It's super short, super easy to read. And it really hit home around basically overcoming challenges. Don't just because you've got a challenge in front of you, complain and point fingers. You need to go out and find where the new cheese is. And it was a really good book.
And mine would be Jesse Itzler. He's the husband of the lady who started Spanx. He's a billionaire.
Yep.
He's got a book called Living with a Seal. So do you know David Goggins?
No. But I know of Spanx though, yeah.
Yeah, Spanx, yeah. So Jesse Itzler, he started Zocco Coconut Water. He started Marquee Jet, which Warren Buffett bought. So it's like a jet card, like a Go card for jets, and you can have a prepaid card instead of buying actual jets. So yeah, Living with a Seal. David Goggins is like supposedly the hardest man alive, and before he became David Goggins, yeah, he was a SEAL in the Navy. Jesse met him at a race, and then Goggins lived with Jesse and had him working out, and would be in a client meeting and be like, "Now give me 100 burpees." And he's like, "Mate, we're about to sit on a boardroom meeting." He's like, "I don't give a shit." And Jesse would be doing like 100 burpees in his boxers, drooping sweat. And then execs would come and be like, "What are you doing?" And then they'd just be so like, "Why is there this big black Navy SEAL sitting next to you in this boardroom?" He's like, "Oh, he's helping me out with life." And they're like, "All right, well, if you're doing that, mate, we're on board." So they're just like standing out, being unique and pushing harder than you have before. That's the summary of the book.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I've heard Confessions of a Recruiter is a really good podcast. So definitely listen to that.
Self-plug,
Or
yep.
Grow's pretty good.
Thank you.
What other podcast? Oh, there's a few out there. I don't know. Not one in particular, but
Mine is Diary of a CEO.
okay, yeah.
Yep. He's that's a really good podcast. Like he gets psychologists on, and it's just always different. It's not as I like Joe Rogan, but sometimes you can only listen to the same conversation with just a different guest sometimes.
And they're so long. I've never listened to one because they're too long.
Yeah, 3 hours, some of them.
Yeah.
What he's known for.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Email automation sequence.
Yep. What tool do you use? What platform?
Well, it's all built into our CRM.
You could use like
Reply.
MailChimp, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, or this one's really good. Reply.io.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an outbound email sequencing that you can customize. So you could be like, hey, Troy, it's Declan here from XRecruiter. Just wanted to reach out and have a chat about grow, like blah, blah, blah. And it just comes out of your inbox. It doesn't show that, it's come from a third-party server or anything.
Yep.
And that's a really good thing that just happens without the automation, without having to be on the phone.
Yeah. Finally, my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
Don't bullshit yourself. Just work really, really hard.
And no matter what happens, just don't ever give up.
Yep.
Because a guaranteed way to lose is when you quit.
That's it, guys. Thank you very much for your chat today. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure we could go for another hour or so, but maybe we need to do that over a beer when I'm up in Brisbane next, or you guys are in Hobart. Congratulations on both your individual recruiting businesses, getting that up and going, but also launching XRecruiter now about almost 3 years ago now, and on market in August last year, and growing from 1 to around 5 or 6 FTE, launching into America now, and wonderful growth. So congratulations to you both and the team.
Oh, thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for having us on and having a chat with us.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.